Welcome to the Age of Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept we now live in a world transformed by the nuclear industry. We expose and confront the intentional neglect and disregard for life on our planet by atomic energy. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage, to take action to save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Every voice matters. Our actions matter. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear. Good afternoon. This is your host, Lonnie Clark, with the Age of Fission radio show, and I am here with my friend, Thomas Ackermann. We're actually recording a Skype call, so we're seeing each other. So we might make comments about us seeing each other. But Tom, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience here at the Age of Fission and tell them how you came. It was Tom's coinage of the Age of Fission. He's allowed me to name my show after that. So
I'm going to get into this with you a little bit because I'm separating myself from a lot of that information. I'm trying to find another pathway. It's like there are many different. There must be a saying about many different paths you can take to end up in the same place or something like that.
Yes, but you know the difference is this is some pretty serious stuff because we're talking about what neighborhoods are poisoned. You know what I'm really discovering? Well, Tom, first, I will introduce you. Thomas, this is Thomas Ackermann, ladies and gentlemen, and he is a very well-known artist. I believe he's out of Toronto, Canada. Isn't that the city up there, Toronto?
Very close. Yeah, that's close.
Yeah. And
that's really yeah.
His artwork is phenomenal. I don't know if any of you have seen any of my posters, but the Shiva t-shirt that I've worn here in Eugene, or I don't know, you can probably look on. Tom, tell them how to get to your website.
Ackermann-artist.com. You can see work I have on my website.
Yeah, and it's Ackermann with two N's.
Yes, two N's on Ackermann with a hyphen, and there is a connection to my YouTube channel as well.
I'll put the
link.
Which
I'm not using that much anymore. I used to be very regular on the nuclear issue specifically, and other stuff too. I mean, there's other things.
Well, the thing is, this is where you and I became friends, because in looking at this stuff, this is why I asked you to be on today. Because it's not, you can't just look at the facts. It's not just the facts. As I've said this many times on my podcast, I'm really sick about hearing about all the facts. Although this last week about Treasure Island with Steve Seltzer off of San Francisco Bay and the corruption of California politics and how filthy it was and why it got. My guess is every place where there's nuclear contamination, you have the same story of corruption. So that's,
well, you have the same effect.
Tom, this is where I appreciate you, because you don't really you're sort of up to here with even listening about it. You don't want to hear about the facts anymore. You want to talk about the bigger picture. Let me put it.
Well, okay. There are different levels to this, right? Because I'm evolving as a human being. I mean, this is hopefully before I shed this mortal coil. I'm a little different from when I was 50 years ago or whatever, right?
10 years ago.
So
yeah.
We're all developing, right? As human, hopefully.
Right.
One of the sad aspects to our humanity is that we tend to become habitual, almost ritualistic in our approach to living, and life is anything but ritual. I mean, there are certain things that work well that you want to repeat. Like if you're, let's say, you want to be a physically healthy human being, you do the things that really work well, right? That's kind of like habitual. So whatever it is, you and I talked recently about the idea of that vitamin C, liposomal?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the idea
of the riboflavins in vitamin C.
No, it's called liposomal. This is the link you sent me, the panacea for,
in that book. Oh, yeah. So I read that book, but those big words escape me. I don't remember them.
All right. That's just the way of absorbing
It's called
vitamin
Primal
C.
Panacea. It's a book about This Dr. Levy wrote this book to cure heart disease, actually. But I
And
followed it, but I followed its protocol and got over pneumonia in 4 days.
Okay, so what he basically advocates, like Linus Pauling, that vitamin C is a very good substance to ingest, especially absorb in your cells. There's lots of complex. I don't want to get into that. But the idea of doing something habitual, if it's good for you, I would recommend it. I mean, from a point of view of our physical well-being and all of that, there are things that we do that make us feel better about ourselves that are almost, I don't want to call them ritualized, but they're habitual. But for the most part, what I'm understanding about myself is that, especially as a painter, I don't want to repeat myself too much because it gets me entrenched in a way of thinking that blocks my own path toward, for lack of a better word, I'll say enlightenment, that we're always searching for that feeling that makes us, I don't know, just a bit better than when we came, right? That feeling.
I think on the mark.
It's like personal. It's like every person has their path and they're very individual in terms of their own ability to absorb something. And it's like all that is very personal. But in a general sense, what I'm finding myself reevaluating is when we first met, Lonnie, this issue about nuclear is so horrific. I mean, the whole notion behind this happening under our noses, it's like there's lots of things that are happening right under our noses that are terrible. But this is so cosmically huge for life on Earth that it really preoccupied me from that 3/11 date, right? It's like I knew Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island.
Me too. When I found out I didn't find out about it till the next year.
Which one? Which one are you talking about? Fukushima.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I heard about it, but I believed Barack Obama when he said everything was fine. I literally remember looking at the TV thinking, thank God Barack Obama's our president.
Thank God.
Because he's going to handle this correctly. Now, did I know at the time he packed his kids and went on a 3-week vacation down south? No.
To avoid the plume, yes.
Did I know that Hillary Clinton sent out an email to all of her employees and this, all of her entire department that said, stay inside, take your clothes off as soon as you come in the door?
So, yeah, this is our great Nobel Peace Prize laureate.
Well, this is the Democratic Party. This is the thing that I've learned. The reason we have Donald Trump in the White House, frankly, is because we have the Democratic Party who prefers Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders. 100%.
Bernie will beat Trump in a heartbeat.
Yes, he will.
Trump doesn't have a chance.
Yes, he will.
But the point is that's weird, too, that we're sidelining this conversation. I didn't want to go there. But the whole idea of
that's my own PTSD showing.
You've identified it. And like I said offline, we're responsible for the dysfunctions in ourselves, right? We can't just sort of like people go to hospitals and expect doctors to help them miraculously. I mean, that's so ridiculous. We got to be our own.
Think about this. Throughout humanity's entire history, there wasn't like, oh, I need to go run to the doctor. I need to get my shots. Humans lived. They didn't die. It's a fallacy that people died super early. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
People lived a good age. Once we got into the industrial age and people did their home remedies and did things like that, people didn't die early. We did have a lot of childbirth death because of the way childbirth was manipulated by allopathic doctors. Like they insisted, they took the whole birth thing away from women. Like once a woman goes into labor, if you go into a hospital, you lose all your rights.
Yeah, that's amazing too. Yeah, wow. You're creating a lot of topics to talk about. But
this is the thing, Tom. This is what the whole Fukushima thing for me does. The whole thing about nuclear contamination. It opens up the whole picture of. It's not just nuclear contamination. It's chemical contamination. It's mental contamination. It's the whole thing. It's the loss of our rights as individuals, and we just give them up because we think that's what the system says we have to do. I mean, it's even like with this so-called democratic election we're having in the United States, the so-called pillar of democracy refuses to have any election overseers. Do you know we're the only nation on earth that refuses to allow election overseers?
We should bring on Guatemalans and Hondurans to oversee the elections.
Oh, no. They'd be too easy to pay off. No.
No, I'm saying these are...
We'd want some people from Switzerland and Germany. That's who I want.
No, but Lonnie, these are always the states that are named as being totally dysfunctional and ignorant, and they have a better track record at making elections real, than...
well, that's because they had to fight off the United States, who rigs their elections since the
they never
early
succeed,
1900s. The United States is notorious. Look what they did in the last few years. It's absolutely ridiculous what they've done down there. And it really gets down to...
What do you want to talk about here? I don't want to talk about...
This is what I want to talk about. We have limited time because Tom has to leave, I think, in what time? How much longer do we have?
25 minutes.
Okay. So I want to talk about the nuclear denial and how we break through that mentality of not just nuclear denial. I think you and I were on this earlier. People sort of get into... They create their own habits. Like we become almost slaves to the things that harm us.
Okay, well, yeah, that's what we're talking about. What I was saying about bad habits and good habits, right? So we're kind of stuck in some ways, in habitual behavior that is actually quite detrimental to our well-being. And that can be physical or it can be mental. Right. I think it's on all levels. So what I was referring to in terms of my own evolution as a human being, the YouTube experience for me was quite interesting because in the beginning when we first met, we were involved with Blanche on the nuclear issues in terms of getting together. What I was really interested in is finding people and getting together physically to actually meet up and do stuff. This is like where you show yourself, whether you're just a blabbermouth or whether you're actually in the trenches, willing to get out of your comfort zone, meet up, find what other people are thinking, saying, have a whole conversation that develops organically in some kind of way, right? Rather than just sitting in front of a screen, blabbering a whole bunch of facts out to people and it may be valuable. It may be valuable to. I've gained a lot from the stuff that people talk.
I think a lot of people who talk to the YouTube channel actually do. I mean, at least I know I do. I engage with my elected officials, and I do the stuff that I think I can. The things I think of, I actually do them.
You're excellent in this way because you make the phone calls. You actually get in there into their faces.
Yeah, like I mailed 5 of those pamphlets, the MENA No Data site pamphlets, the one that I read. I mailed them to the Olympic Committee. Woohoo! Do we think we'll get an answer from them?
No, I think that'll be shoved in some sort of tray that's like never going to be seen probably. As soon as they see that, it's sort of like, ooh.
Well, I didn't tell them not to go. I just asked them to please do what the South Koreans are doing and take their own food and water.
So, but that is a credit to you, Lonnie, in terms of being active, not just in a mental way, but
this is kind of what I want everybody to do. Everyone who listens to this podcast, like you don't have to do a lot of different things. That's why I love Dave Parrish's channel, his Fuku Fridays. It's 6 minutes. It's
I love Dave Parrish.
It's
too.
Like a cheerleading thing, and it kind of is like a poke in the eye as to why you can't just go back to sleep and ignore it, because the things that we are facing are like. TEPCO announces this week they are definitely going, as the International Atomic Energy Agency suggested, they are going to dump all that water in the Pacific Ocean. Because guess what?
They have been dumping this stuff all the time.
I mean vast amounts. They're going to unload.
Okay, they're going to empty their vats. Yes, I know. Although they don't have any more room to put all the stuff.
Well, not only that, so many of them are meant for only 3 years.
Well, and the tritium that they're creating every day cannot be filtered in any way. So where is it going to go?
Right, exactly.
It's going to, But the thing is, Lonnie, I don't want anybody to do anything. This is something that I've realized. I don't want anybody to do anything. This is not something that we can tell and expect and, wake up, wake up, wake up. All these types of SGT.
I'm with you on that. I think people are awake. I think people are awake.
Of course.
But I think that they actually feel so paralyzed with despair because they don't see an answer.
Dysfunctional habits.
So this is why I like Dave's idea, though, on 311 of doing a mass meditation, a worldwide meditation on finding solutions and blessing the people involved in the nuclear industry to help. That's what I said. We'll just pray to change their minds, and they focus on finding a solution instead of just lying to us all the time and
Now,
lying.
I have to tell you though. Okay, Lonnie, I have to tell you that thing may not vibrate for me, but I advocate, if a person feels inspired, this is the point.
That's right. Do it. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
That's what art is about, though. That, fundamentally, that is what your message of art is about. Art is life. Art is everything in our lives. Be inspired in those things that you do.
Be inspired. It's like if art inspires you, art is just it's a thing that you look at. But for me, art is an actual physical act every day. It's something that I do, right? It's not something that I look at. It's something that I'm involved in as a painter. I am an artist. I make the stuff. I just don't talk about it. You're not an artist if you tell people, oh, yeah, I am an artist. Have you ever made anything? No, but I'm an artist. I actually have come across people that say, oh, yeah, I'm an artist. I've been thinking about doing it for the last 30 years. I'm an artist. So it's kind of like that. Whatever it is.
That's sad. I wonder what else in their lives they're putting off.
Yeah, but these are, Lonnie, it's it's okay. They just sound ridiculous because it's like if I'm talking to somebody that's really good at what they're doing, the reason they're good at what they're doing is because they've done it. And if you do something long enough, you get good at it. That's right. Even if if a commitment, like a personal commitment. So here in what I was thinking about when you said let's have a chat, I was thinking to myself, okay, what is it inside me that has changed over the last 9 years almost now since Fukushima happened, right? This is a pivotal event. You and I understand this. You have your approach, I have my approach. Even people that I'm not so crazy about, it's like they have they have their fight, pick your fight and fight it, right?
Exactly.
Pick your fight.
Exactly.
Even the environmentalist types that are still going on about climate change, which is a bunch of hooey, the way they're thinking about it. But you know what? I love them because they picked the fight and they've got a bone in their jaw and they're not going to let it go. And I like that, right? I like that. They'll come, it's like I'm thinking about this environmental coffee house lady. Have you come across her?
Yes.
And I really like her, right? But they're pounding at this thing. And I'm not saying
I get what you're saying. It gets a bit repetitive.
Yeah. Now, for her, okay, now I'm not picking on her. I'm just saying that if you miss the elephant in the room, right? Like the nuclear thing is the elephant in the room. There is no other issue.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I'm not saying there is a diminished issue with releases of methane and all that. But we can't do anything about that.
But actually, nuclear causes that. Nuclear does cause that.
There you go. You have a melting, like the nuclear.
What did Sean in my last interview? He got into the science of this. Nuclear it releases when they produce it. It's not CO2, it's CO3, which is inclusive of CO2.
But it heats the environment up, right? The
way
ocean
faster.
Is being heated up.
CO3 is way faster. So, it's a massive contributor.
Yeah, right. But my point is that what I'm thinking is that, yes, you pick your fight, but then there is this overwhelming, that we all know, by the way, we know this is the issue on the planet. No matter what anybody does, the shills, the trolls trying to diminish us, trying to attack us, trying to get us off the thing, even the ones that have a really good cause they're fighting for. But you got to always have this going on in the back of your head. I'm on my environmental fight, but if I miss this, I'm missing the most important thing.
A major component.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yes, ever. No, ever. When was a nuclear plant in history of humankind? Now, I don't know in the time of the pyramids. Maybe there was a similar thing. You talk about.
Maybe that's what caused the collapse of those entire civilizations was nuclear.
Hey, I am not going to pronounce what history really is, but I'm keeping it open. The possibilities.
Me too. I'm with you on that.
There's a great YouTuber called, I think he calls him John Levy or Jon Levy. He does historical research on how buildings were made that we no longer are able to make. Where did they get this?
Yeah, that ancient technology ability? Where they can like laser in, and the bricks you can't even put a piece of paper in between them. And all of those, all of those
how did they get
temples in India where they like carved all those gods and all the animals right into the rock, like very intricate. How did they do
There are so many anomalies in the way it's being explained that makes no sense.
Right.
The white coats explain shit to us, and it makes no sense. So there are fabulous YouTubers out there that are doing their research. I would never discourage anyone from researching and getting behind it and giving us something to chew on that makes sense, right? What if we're listening to the consensual
so
white
then why
coat
did you stop? You know, your name of your channel is, do you do Art Rant or you do H. Thomas Ackermann?
No, I'm Ackermann. Ackermann, yeah, it's like H. Thomas Ackermann on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah, that's your Ackermann one. But Tom, like you're kind of a thinker, and you like he's kind of stopped doing a lot of YouTubes. He's an artist. You guys must go to his page because his artwork is unique and really mind-bending. He has some really awesome work on.
Lonnie has unconditional love for me. That's why I love Lonnie, because you know, as artists, we need to be loved a lot.
I do. His work is awesome. You guys would not even believe it. If any of you were, well, hopefully this video, I'll be able to figure out a way. I don't think I can put the video on. I didn't record it on YouTube because I couldn't figure out how to play back the audio for the radio. But if you guys go to his website, you'll see his artwork. And he has artwork as we're speaking in the background. So while he was talking earlier, I'm just like focusing on his paintings in the back. So... But Tom, you used to do YouTube videos and try to give your opinions, 10, 15 minutes opinions about like how people should come. I think the biggest thing was your ideas on how to comport yourself, because that's the one thing I think people go to YouTube for, that other than the stupid, silly stuff of looking at babies and dogs, you know what I mean, and cooking channels.
Videos, the most successful cat videos.
But people want to have different ideas on how to comport themselves and ways to challenge, you know, like... The way we're doing things is so medieval. I mean, really.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word. Yeah. It's like totally unevolved.
It is really beyond. And I think that in the medieval times, people then, not many people had educations. And so they did rely on the seers and the people who were connected and had educations to tell them information. And I think we're in that same place because we live in a culture, although we have tons of books, not many people read books. That's the real reality. They don't read books. They don't really read the articles. There's tons of studies that show if you send somebody an article, they might skim through it and get 10% of it, but they don't get the whole thing.
There is no formula, a standard, as far as I know, that leads us to this better place. And, you know, I've talked a lot about this in terms of conscience, that there are elements within each human being that are universal. And one of them is this aspect to us, which is a mystery. We don't know where the hell this comes from, but we know right from wrong. We don't need a stone tablets to tell us what is right or wrong, right? This is like usurping our own, what is that inner
intuition.
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but we have this innate quality that makes us human beings very distinct in life, in the animal kingdom, that we appear to have something that is called a conscience. And this is something
I wouldn't say that's very distinct. We don't know if whales or dolphins or those people have those creatures, because I think they're very human-like. And
but
other animals, a dog knows when it's doing wrong. If you've ever had a dog and you go, hey, what have you been doing? They're like, oh, really?
Oh, you mean their eyeballs roll back into their skull?
I mean, they know they did wrong. They have a conscience, you know what I mean? But see, this is the thing about love. I think this stems out of love. I know we're running out of time, but I think this stems out of the whole idea. I think Gaia, our planet, the gift of our planet to the universe is love. And I think that's what we have on this planet. We create love. And that's why I say happiness.
You're invoking something even higher than what I'm trying to deal with, right? It's something that I work towards, you know, as best I can. I'm talking about things that seem to be attainable. I think the love principle
Love
is something
attainable.
that
I don't think you can actually get away from it. Like, that's where misery comes from. If you turn your back on it, that's where you get miserable. People that hate
well, look
themselves.
at the world. The world is bloody miserable. It's like
Right.
if you just look around, people who have their head in the sand saying, "Oh no, it's all working." Well, it's like whether you look at it personally or collectively, globally, or whatever. We're in a bad state right now, especially with this nuclear issue. So unless something personal is resolved, that's what I say, Lonnie. And of course, you can invoke the idea of love, and I find this to be I don't know. I get almost teary-eyed when I think about this level of being a human being, what it is we're capable of, right? To be loving. But I approach it from the point of view where I can talk to people, and if I say conscience, they want to shut down. Okay, if you say love, I guarantee most people will just immediately shut down because it's something they feel they never had, they never felt, they can never get, whatever.
I understand that. Okay.
So I avoid it. I actually avoid it. It's sort of like going to Catholic church. I avoid it like the plague, in a certain way, because I know we're so desperate for this feeling of love that as soon as it comes up anywhere, it's like down, right? And we have all defense mechanisms to keep us from actually opening ourselves up. So what I try to do is, like when I talk to a person, is I want to extract, like I use my paintings for that reason too. I want to extract something that they feel within themselves, that they get so excited about, and something that they can themselves be able to do. Like, you don't have to make a painting, but if you can actually connect with this part in us that's the conscience, to do the right thing, do you think we'd be in the shitter we're in now if every person decided to do the right thing?
That's true. That's
right?
true. I mean, look what we're living through right this second. We're having people apologizing on camera for doing the wrong thing because they're going to do the wrong thing, and they're saying, well, we're really sorry, but we're going to do this.
Exactly. It's sort of, it makes no sense.
As if their conscience feels any better because they've apologized ahead of time.
It's a bless you, sister. It's like go forth and multiply. It's like,
and it will too.
David Burns, talking at stop making sense. It's like that kind of a feeling to me. It's as soon as something makes sense, you shut it down. It's almost as though there is an aversion for this quality we have in us. And if you can only inspire a person to want to do the right thing, doesn't mean they do it, but at least it's in their brains, it's somewhere that might motivate them to act in a certain way that's different from the habits, those habitual, ritualized behaviors that are sinking our ship. That's what I say. The habitual behavior is sinking our ship. That's how I look at it. And anything that'll draw me away from this functional habitual behavior is a bonus. It's like fabulous. I encourage people to, whenever I can, you know what I mean now? It's like to draw this out. So is the information going to do it, Lonnie? Is it somebody spouting off all the truth and all the stuff that they believe to be
well,
true?
Some information might be helpful because when people hear, like, that's in fact why I reported, like, on Treasure Island. I was like such a gem to understand this about. Intuitively, I've known for a long time that Nancy Pelosi was really very corrupt, and Dianne Feinstein extremely corrupt because of what they've done, what I've watched them do in the Senate. But to actually see that they were intrinsically involved in locating very poor people on a radioactively contaminated site and building condos and get their families profiting from those condos. I mean, it's environmental racism, complete definition, with two powerful women. And this is, I kind of have an interest in this because I have noticed that the nuclear industry always uses women to do its filthy, dirty work. There's always a woman at the forefront. There's always some woman willing to appease. There's actually a nuclear site called Women Mothers for Nuclear. Did you ever come across that? Yes, I have, actually. I have. That's like an oxymoron. Although, my sister last night, who was a Trumpster, when I was telling her what Trump reclassified 100 million gallons of waste, I'm like, that can't be good. She goes, well, we don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, we'll have to see when everybody drops dead. Well, not just that. You're transporting it on the highways, and contaminating because they're not in containers that protect all the radioactivity because it's highly radioactive, so it's in minimally protected containers. As you're driving down the highway at whatever hour of night, if you pass them, you are going to be exposed for however long you're exposed to that vehicle on the highway. So if you're driving along some truck in the middle of the night,
you're getting a dose. You're getting a dose and you don't even know it. It's like an X-ray times 1,000.
Yes, it's sad. Anyways,
but,
Tom, now I'm nervous about the time here. How much time do we have?
Okay, no, but I want to make this one more point.
Okay.
This one more point about information. I wouldn't argue with you about that. There is really valuable things that you can tell me and I can tell someone else. But what is really crucial in this, what I've understood, is intent for me is everything. So when I hear somebody spout stuff, it may be true, not true, whatever. It's the intent that delivers the message that, from my point of view, I want to communicate. So if your intent is to propagate some sort of special thing that you want everybody to do, you're going to start getting into a situation where, like, we all know each other's motivations. Even though there are people that make their living on lying, we all know. Like, even let's say you go to a used car salesman. Whenever you go into the lot, you know he's going to lie to you, right? But you still go and you buy the goddamn car from him. And
I've never bought a used car at a used car lot.
Well, okay, that's the archetypal example, right, of the snake oil salesman.
I know what you're saying, yes.
Okay, so intent is everything.
Yes.
Intent makes the difference. The car is still the car, but the intent. So if he tells me, this car may only last 6 months, right? He would never do that. He'd say, no, it's good for 10 years, but, we'll give a 6-month guarantee or whatever. Point is, we know when people lie. I believe that.
So it's beyond the intent. See, it's not what your intentions are. It's what you actually do. You might intend to do good, but are you going to? Like if you actually
not do good if you intend to do good? I don't think so. You will always self-correct. I think we have self-correcting abilities. You'll always correct yourself. I think you'll realize as soon as you've done the mistake, you'll go back and revise. And if you do it again, you'll revise, you'll correct. I have faith in people that way.
I think that might be a smaller portion of people. I've known lots of people like, oh, screw it, I'll just leave it like that. I don't care. Like they don't have any interest in self-correcting unless they get. So I think it gets down to, again, self-love. I think people that love and honor themselves and really want to connect with who they really are and love themselves instead of feeling like they're losers anyways, why fix it? Like that negative self-talk inside themselves is what keeps people on the wrong path and keeps them from self-correcting. So for me, when I say the answer is love, I really believe the first place it starts is self-love. We need a society where people not just are narcissistic, selfish people, but people who really appreciate who they are, can look at themselves and smile and say, you know what, I really love myself. Everything, warts and all, no matter what you look like, that's the vessel that you're living in, and honor that. And when you move from that place, everybody's life around you improves because I don't believe you can build a healthy society with people who do not love themselves. And what happens is we now have a society of complicity because we have so many people hating themselves. I mean, think about where the Western culture came out. It rocketed out of the Victorian age where everything was all controlled and under wraps, you know what I mean? And we came out of this age where we had this idea of free, even the idea of democracy. This is why I think that American democracy has gotten way off track, because our democracy and our Constitution was not built for capitalistic means in lots of ways. It was venturing into that. It's kind of like this idea of we're going to give everybody a vote and we're going to try to make things even. That's all a new idea. We didn't have this throughout human history. These are all brand new ideas. So it's easy to screw up. But if you come at it with a point of self-love, you can love your neighbors if you love yourself. If you really love yourself, you feel much more kindly towards your neighbors. That's what I think. I think that's the fundamental root, and I think that's how civilizations prosper. And when you stop loving yourself and you stop caring about everybody around you, that's when civilizations crumble. Unless they get decimated by some oppressor. That's happened too.
There's always the guy carrying the big mallet and hammer.
That's happened quite a bit.
You know, we're getting hammered by the big nuclear hammer every day. So
we are getting the big.
We can love ourselves to whatever end, but then the hammer comes down, right?
There is so much nuclear news. Like, I could report on this. Like, I'm part of these email chains where I get nuclear information. Like
Sure.
Donna, Steve Seltzer, Beyond Nuclear. They all come to me like, Libby Halevi and I were talking about this. We could just sit here and do this every day. Like, this is...
Of course.
I mean,
24/7.
The thing
24/7. It's never an end.
The nuclear industry didn't anticipate the internet. So the information is now out there. People know it's being blanketed, in fact. But what's happening is the nuclear denial is so grave and so deep bedded in our psyches that people don't even acknowledge that nuclear causes harm. My sister just died from cancer, colon cancer. Stage 4 diagnosed in November and just died in January. She lived 20 miles south of San Onofre, right on the coast in San Diego, blasted by nuclear contamination from Fukushima, plus the San Onofre. She's been there 5 years. Now, the family was like, well, if that's true, why don't we all have cancer?
Right.
Well, you know why? She was a vulnerable person, first off. She had Hashimoto's disease when she was 18. She had her thyroid out. So she's pre-cancerous, you know what I mean, already. So it makes sense she's the first one to get severely affected.
We allow ourselves to believe in lies in order to share the pain. It's like there's a saying that, certain individuals delight in the misfortunes of others. This is one of the unfortunate byproducts of, the civilization that, as you say, doesn't love itself. We delight in the misfortune of others more than we delight in their success. This is unfortunately a pattern, another one of those patterns that is disgusting. But
you said
I'm a little,
we allow ourselves to share the lies in order to what?
Well, people accept the lies because they delight in the misfortune of others. It's like lies lead to pain and suffering. Ultimately, you cannot sustain yourself on lies. Nuclear industry is just another word for lying all the time, right? So ultimately, what happens in people is like they have this like what you just talked about. I agree with you that self-love, that true self-love, you have to earn that in a way too. You can't just get it. Oh, I love myself. That's it. You have to work on it. You got to take care of yourself.
Well, I think children are born loving themselves, but my goal as a parent was to stay out of my kids' way. You know what I mean? Like to allow, and yet my children still struggled with self-love, but they're, self-loving people, but they've had their issues. It's natural in our culture that pounds this stuff out of you. We can't help it.
The natural part of us has been so suppressed and repressed and eclipsed by systems of behavior that make no sense whatsoever. Right. This is what I mean by civilization would be a good idea, as Gandhi said. Civilization and culture is the backbone of the lies that we accept every day to deny the love that you're talking about. Right. This is something in the system. Lonnie, it's not something that, we were born with. This is something that we adjust ourselves to as we get older and older.
That is very true, and that's actually probably why people look at me and say, oh, you're bucking the system.
Good.
Because I think I am, you know what I mean? Well, I mean, in lots of parts of ways in my life. Yeah,
I mean, honestly, that kind of attitude, that contrarian attitude, I much prefer, even if you're not exactly 100% what I think, you're on the level, but as long as you're contrarian, that's what I say, like environmental.
As long as you're contrarian.
I'm bringing this
up. I never thought I was contrarian. This is the issue. I never considered myself contrarian.
Yeah, standing on the road by yourself with a sign saying nuclear kills, it's like when scientists open their mouth, it's like you die.
My big sign, when scientists lie, people die.
Exactly.
Standing in front of the university science lab.
On the busiest road in Oregon, and like people go by and you're standing by yourself. Oh no, Lonnie's not a contrarian. Oh no, she's just like out there having a coffee and having a good time. I gotta go, Lonnie.
Okay, well, it's great. Thank you for coming and being on this podcast.
I'm expecting somebody in 5 minutes.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being part of our podcast, and I hope you come back, Tom. It'd be awesome. I'll send you the link.
Oh yeah, we'll have. We're friends. We talk all the time as much as we can.
Well, I think it's important to get these ideas out to people. So I really appreciate your time.
I'm so glad you called and had this talk with you.
Me too. Put your courage feet on, you guys. Bye.
Bye, honey. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with our guest, H. Thomas Ackermann. This is your host, Lonnie Clark, with the Age of Fission radio show. We have a few more minutes left over, and I want to post up the audio sound of my guest last week, Dave Parrish, who has a YouTube channel by the same name and a website, Operation Save the Earth. Posted this video up last Friday. Every Friday he posts up a video called Fuku Fridays. It's 5 or 6 minutes long. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll be discussing all of this on the other side, so I hope you enjoy this quick little video I'll post up, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
8 minutes to spread the love. It is Valentine's Day, after all, and that means love of all people, animals, plants, rocks, and solar systems. Good. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about some other important dates that are coming up. Hey y'all, it's Dave here, and this is the Fuku Friday Happy Hour Hangout for February 14th, 2020. We're halfway through February already, and guess what? That means we're less than a month away from the 9th anniversary of the Fukushima nuclear disaster, which still affects Japan and the rest of the world 3,262 days later. I'm finalizing particulars with Easy Talks Cloud Meeting Services to set up a web space where we can all gather on March 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, for an hour-long guided meditation with Michael Post of Samadhi Sea of Wisdom. I'll have link information ready for you next week, so put it in your schedule today as we get ready to spend a lunch hour in vibrational space spreading love to everyone who is affected by this nuclear nightmare, which is everyone on the planet Earth. Another couple of dates to remember that are coming right up are July 24th and August 25th. The start dates of the 2020 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games, respectively, in Tokyo. Instead of funneling money and resources to Fukushima Prefecture to stop the flow of radiation into the Pacific and into the atmosphere there, as well as offer substantive relief to residents still living close to radioactive hotspots, the Japanese government and the International Olympic Committee are hell-bent on keeping things on track so the games will go off without a hitch. But there are a few problems standing in their way. First off is the Wuhan coronavirus. With the games less than 5 months away, there is a concern that the Olympics might be canceled outright because of the developing situation in China and around the world in response to the outbreak. Last week, Tokyo Olympics organizer Yoshiro Mori expressed concern about the virus and how it would impact the Olympics. But this week, he walked back those concerns when IOC officials came into town. I mean, could you imagine? Ever since the Fukushima nuclear disaster began, Japan has done everything in its power to prevent the nuclear issue from derailing its opportunity to waste money, host the games, only to be stymied by a viral outbreak? I wouldn't put a lot of money down on the coronavirus slowing the train too much as July approaches, because too much money has already gone out the door for the event, but it will be interesting to see how it all unfolds in the weeks to come as the virus continues to spread globally. The other problem the Olympics face is us. Fuku fighters in Japan and around the world have had a sour outlook on the games ever since it was announced that Japan would host in 2013, when Prime Minister Shinzo Abe-kun blatantly lied to the IOC and said Fukushima radiation would never pose any problems because there is no problem at the Daiichi site. I hope everyone out there is still funneling information to the athletes, trainers, and coaches who will be at the games this year to let them know where all the hot spots are and to have caution about what food is being sourced to them. I mean, South Korea's already stated that it's sending food and water along with its country's athletes to Tokyo, and I think that's a good idea. If every team and competitor did that, at least you'd know for sure where your food is coming from and how radioactive it isn't before you get there. Oh, and if you still believe that all the radiation from the triple meltdown at TEPCO's Daiichi site has magically been scooped away and scrubbed off from every place there is in Japan, believe me, I got a bridge to Tokyo from Los Angeles I can sell you. Cheap. It's like I told you, Fuku Fighters, 2020 is going to be a big year for us, and we're just getting started. If you haven't already, guys, what do you got to do? Take step one for yourself, get more information, and then share it to everybody I just said, right? Go to our website at OperationSaveTheEarth.com and just, click on the helpful link section. Everything you need is right there. And then when you're ready for more, sign up for our free weekly newsletter by sending me an email at info@OperationSaveTheEarth.com so I can put you on that mailing list. And also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter. That's at OSTE, 8 minutes all spelled out. And hey, thanks for subscribing and liking these videos here on YouTube. Every little bit helps, and believe me, that algorithm is against anything that has to do with the Fukushima nuclear disaster. So keep on it, Fuku Fighters. Now, Japan wants the recovery games to be a shining beacon of progress after 3/11/2011, but really, it is a public shame and an ultimate disrespect to people who've had to deal with the cover-up of the worst nuclear disaster of the past 30 years. Our job is to use the Olympic platform to shine a light on those that really need it and to keep visitors and participants as safe as possible. If the Olympics get canceled, it makes our job a lot easier. So let's see what happens in the weeks to come as things develop. Either way, mark your calendars now, Fuku Fighters, and get ready. The real work lies ahead. So until next time, this is Dave saying peace and good fortune to everyone. Take care till then.
Boy, isn't that the truth, Dave? We definitely have the hard work is definitely ahead. I don't know about you guys, but I really love listening to Dave's videos. I look forward to every Friday. He doesn't get a lot of... I think that YouTube is actually suppressing his view counts, to be honest. I cannot believe he has that low of subscription nor that many view counts, because I know people that are on YouTube that say they listen to him. So anyways, that's neither here nor there, but I actually do enjoy his videos. I hope you did too. If you like it, please go to his YouTube channel. If you like it, thumbs up at least, please, and subscribe. He's not for profit, so I think I can actually, even on KEPW, say this to you, because it's not against the rules, I don't believe. It helps our humanity for all of us to figure out how to get involved. I will definitely have the links for H. Thomas Ackermann, his website and his YouTube channel. Same for Dave Parrish. Dave's YouTube channel name is his exact name, DaveParrish. And we'll have the links on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to post this up also on my Spreaker channel, which is the Age of Fission radio show. You can find it there. Look for Lonnie Clark. And I do want to make a little announcement, because in my interview with H. Thomas Ackermann, I did something I rarely do. I edited our conversation because it floored me. I'm not going to play the audio of it because I was like, wow. It was at the beginning of our conversation. I wanted him to explain how he came up with the name The Age of Fission. And he said, wow, you're still doing your podcast. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, that's really great. And I'm like, I can't believe that he's not listening. And we talked about it on air, as you did hear. And but I did edit it out because he said it's like it turns into white noise, and that is exactly it. That's the whole nuclear denial, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I do not want to be like white noise at all. There's more things to do with my very short life. I'm 64. So rather than just be silent on this and me disappearing, I thought I'd let you know that on March 11th I'm going to be on Real Liberty Media on their podcast. I'm going to have Dave's interview on that day. I don't know how long it'll be, and I'll probably be live a little bit longer after that. It's going to be my last podcast, and I'll post it up on KEPW. It'll go to my website, but I'm not going to do the podcast anymore. I really do not want to be white noise. There's other activities that I could do that might be more effective, because, my thing is I want to break the nuclear silence. And if I'm just white noise and not even my friend, someone who really supports me and really believes in me, and in fact, that is what kind of gets to me. My friends and my family, nobody listens to it. I think it's extremely important, but no one pays attention. So I'm not doing it anymore. So after 3/11/2020, not 12, I started in, I think it was September 14th, 2014. That was when I started, I think, my very first podcast on my own. Anyways, it has been a pleasure. I hope you guys will listen to the next few interviews, but I decided to give my audience according to YouTube, I get like 30 listens to 25 to 30 people listen for 6 or 7 minutes. I don't have a high retention. They don't promote me. People don't listen. So I'm just not, I get a higher content if I post up videos that are 15 minutes or less. If that's what it's going to take, I'll do that. I am definitely going to keep my YouTube channel active, because for that reason, I still have things to say, and I do want to report on nuclear contamination. But doing the podcast is not productive, and I think it is white noise. And even within the community, the anti-nuclear community, haven't gotten, much. Yeah, I would say not much. They like me, but not really, because I don't really understand the science and I don't have a mind for it. My thing is we need to just stop it and stop the nuclear denial. We don't need more tests, actually. We need some tests, because women and children have not been tested mostly. Once they realized how damaging it is to babies and infants and women and children, they stopped testing them. Just like they've turned off the radiation meters across the country. They just oops, we don't need these. Turn these off. All across Japan, all across the United States, Canada's had theirs off for years. No testing. Well, time's up. We got to get going here. My hour is just about up. I really appreciate my audience. Please do listen to the next few podcasts. They're going to be really great, even though I've told you that I'm leaving. The people that are listening, I'm not going to be gone until 3/11. Damon Matt's story from Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility is going to be with me, and Dave Parrish. So I really appreciate you listening to us and joining us and caring about our planet. And as I like to say, put your courage feet on. We'll talk to you guys next week. Take care. Thank you for joining the Age of Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We'll be back next week to bring you more information about the nuclear industry and the harm it's causing our planet and humanity. Find all of our podcasts on Spreaker.com or on YouTube at Nuts for Art, NUTZFORART. Thank you for being part of the solution.